Welcome to the Kingdom of Pod. Jeff Caves here in Flower Mound, Texas. Hope you're doing well wherever you listen to this Kingdom of Pod on the Believe Podcast Network, brought to you by Bet Online, a look at Boise State football as news breaks and each week. And coming up, Boise State's old offense could come back to haunt them in a new defense at New Mexico led by Rocky Long. And what about Khalil Shakir? What will he look like going into the NFL draft? What are the scouts perhaps saying and thinking about Khalil and his game? And the BAA, for some, wants money for nothing. For others, that's a good thing. They need some money to help grow the program. I'll get to the details all about that. But first, let me just tell you that we're back. It's better than ever. There's a new web interface at Bet Online. Now with basketball season starting, there's a lot more prop bets, odds, and lines than ever before. If you never bet on the NBA, you may want to take a look at it. This is the number one spot to do it for all basketball and football action, of course, as we get closer to the bowl season and playoffs. A lot of people will be gambling on that. So the new updated desktop or mobile website for Bet Online is there. You can sign up today and you get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use that promo code BELIEVE50. That's BLAV 50 to receive your bonus. Basketball, football, baseball, postseason, NHL, and a lot more. Don't wait to take advantage. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. Let's just take a quick look at this not sexy New Mexico Boise State breakdown and start with the Boise State offense disguised as defense in New Mexico. And here's what I mean by that. You do or don't know that Rocky Long has taken over as the defensive coordinator at New Mexico. And with him, he brings a lot of confusion. This is a 3-3-5 scheme, and you've got a lot of smaller guys running around the field making plays, pressuring the quarterback, not knowing where people are going to line up so that he can make adjustments based on formations, based on how many safeties, based on blitz packages, and letting the offensive line know, hey, they've got an extra guy over here, watch for the blitz there. Offensive linemen making adjustments off of that because, hey, they want to make sure if this guy twists and this linebacker comes, that we've got a switch and everybody's responsibilities will fall in line with that. And so it's a circus to keep track of for offenses. And go back and, before this new edition of the Boise State offense, really that's what defenses said about Boise State's offense. They didn't know where they were going to end up. They were lining up all over the place. There were different personnel groups in the game. There were 4 offensive tackles, 4 tight ends. Just look at what Kellen Moore's doing in Dallas now to get a flavor of the month. And it confused defenses. It put them on their heels and it slowed them down. Well, that's what Rocky's trying to do at New Mexico. I think it's a great tactic. I think that the blitz is coming from all sides of the field. Strong, weak, field, boundary, all of that is clever, confusing, and when he has the right personnel, very effective. I just don't know if that right personnel is going to be against Boise State coming up, what is tomorrow night as I broadcast this. So, there's a lot of things that can get you out of playing sound football. I don't think that personnel-wise, New Mexico has what Rocky had over a long time at New Mexico, where he was able to reload. He was able to go into Southern California and get great smaller athletes and let them build themselves up some and then turn them loose. I think that's harder to do at New Mexico. They do have this Joey Noble, a defensive end who, he leads the Mountain West. He leads his team in tackles for loss. So you'll see him in the backfield some. He's got 15 and a half, negative plays, tackles for loss. That's positive. But overall, I was surprised when I looked up that New Mexico is 10th in the Mountain West Conference in sacking the quarterback. And, they're still running it on him as well. So there's not as much pressure to pass the ball. So I think this is a work in progress. I think he's making do with what he has. He's going to need time to recruit, get some of the second teamers, if you look at the New Mexico two deep chart, they've got a lot of non-transfers there. They'll line up and probably start 5 transfers on the New Mexico defense. There's only 2 of those on their 2 deep. So for tomorrow night, probably not the greatest addition of the New Mexico defense based on where they could be. Will Rocky dial it up for Boise State more? I think that's overrated. I think Rocky dials it up for everybody every week. He's bright, he's smart, he's aggressive, he's tough, he's consistent. And I think he now knows that he's got some personnel limitations, and certainly with injuries, it could even get worse than that. So when I look at New Mexico's defense, I wouldn't be concerned. Now, it's easy for me to say. You've got Shakir out there in the media saying it's confusing to him and he's trying to figure it out. That's fair. It's not the first time he's faced them, and it is confusing. And then at some point you figure out, well, we're just going to run our offense. We're going to just do this to this area, and you, when somebody crosses your face, you take care of them. So I don't think it'll be much issue. I've seen the other teams in the conference putting up 30-plus points on New Mexico. I think Boise State has a lot of motivation, and I'll get to that in a minute on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they need to be a lot more under control than that, right? They've got to have their wits about them and be able to communicate very clearly from the quarterback to the line and out back to even the running backs and pass protections on where these blitzes are coming from. So they may catch them on a few, but it's not what you're worried about. It's the pressures, and you would expect them to run the ball a little bit more than normal anyway, as I think they have a very dominant physical advantage on this particular brand of Rocky Long defense. It's going to take a while for him to get the guys. You look at a guy like Skinner, that was an Avalos get, and Andy got him, and that's a kid that could have ended up at San Diego State in the day. They had a great reputation for defensive backs going to the NFL, as Boise State does. And that style of play is appealing in that area of the Southern California for your family and all that stuff. But Skinner had different ideas, good for Boise State. So I don't find to be anything short of a 30-point performance by the Boise State offense. Boise State's defense against New Mexico's offense, man, the offensive line for New Mexico was average before they had injuries, and then they had injuries, and they started shuffling people around like Boise State. They're running the football about 125 yards a game. They don't really protect the passer that well. They're like 10th in the league in allowing sacks. They don't even average 14 points a game, a little under that offensively. They've had issues at quarterback. They've got more of an option running pistol-type quarterback in Sanchez now running this offense. He only threw 7 passes against Fresno State last week. They've had injuries at wide receiver, which can hurt their continuity and getting timing down. So this is going to have to be a total collapse, in my book, for the Boise State defense to allow more than 7 or 10 points. So you're going to have a ton of turnovers. You're going to have a lot of penalties going against Boise State. And I do believe this about defense in general. Defense can be played and won by emotion. And there's a Tom Brady joke now that defensive football players are like dogs chasing cars. So a dog sees a car that's moving, gets excited, and just chases that sucker down, whether he can get it or not. He's just going to chase that thing. Well, sometimes you're fueled by emotions on defense, and that's how you play. You play based on some reaction that comes out of you, and you're emotionally going to go out and try to get things. Well, the emotional reaction for Boise State is senior night, and that is an important night. A couple of the leaders on defense, Wimpy and Canijo, are not coming back. No medical, no 60 or nothing. They're done-duns. So those guys meant a lot to this program. I think that the other players around them want to perform well on this, what could be their last night together. Guys like Skinner, I'd be surprised if Skinner came back. Just so many injury challenges that can face players with the money in the NFL. You'd want to grab it when you can. So I like the emotions of the evening for the Boise State defense. and I think they'll rule the day, and I don't think New Mexico is going to really have much chance there. The bottom line, New Mexico needs a ton of help to get this done. They need a ton of help to win this football game, win those turnovers and penalties. So I think it'll be 30-10 or worse. So 30-10 or even worse. In other words, Boise State can get to 42 quite easily. I think they could limit New Mexico to 7. Pitching a shutout is nothing I would want to predict because I don't know how important that is to Andy to keep starters in longer if New Mexico is really struggling. But I don't see this as a game that Boise State will struggle to win. All right, speaking of Shaq or